The swamp air of Dagobah hung thick and oppressive as Luke Skywalker's X-Wing descended through the mist. Leia Organa stood at the edge of the murky water, her white senatorial robes already damp from the planet's perpetual humidity. She'd insisted on coming, despite Luke's protests. The rebellion could spare them both for a few days, or so she'd argue. "You feel it too, don't you?" Luke asked as he climbed down from his fighter. His voice carried a weight that made Leia's stomach tighten. "The Force, it's strong in you, Leia, as strong as it is in me." She'd always known somehow, the way she could sense things before they happened, the way she'd heard Luke's call at Cloud City. But knowing and understanding were different beasts entirely. Inside Yoda's hut, the ancient Jedi Master regarded them both with eyes that had seen too much. "Two there are," he wheezed, his gimmer stick tapping against the earthen floor. "Brother and sister, children of the Chosen One." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. "Tell her, you must. The truth she deserves." Luke's face went pale. He turned to Leia, and in that moment, she saw her own fears reflected in his eyes. "Leia, our father, he's alive." "Bail Organa was my father," she said automatically, though her heart already knew the truth. "No, our father is Darth Vader." The universe tilted. Leia felt the ground beneath her feet become quicksand, pulling her down into a darkness she'd never imagined. Vader, the monster who tortured her, who stood by while Tarkin destroyed Alderaan, who'd frozen Han in carbonite. Her father. "How long have you known?" "Since Cloud City. He told me himself." Rage bloomed in her chest, hot and pure. Not at Luke, never at Luke, but at the cosmic joke of it all. The daughter of Darth Vader, leading the rebellion against the Empire her own father served. The irony tasted like ashes. That night, as Luke slept fitfully in the X-Wing, Leia sat by the swamp's edge, staring at her reflection in the dark water. Vader's daughter. The thought repeated like a broken hologram, each iteration bringing new implications. If she had his blood, did she have his power? His darkness? A splash in the water made her look up. For just a moment, she thought she saw a figure in the mist. Tall, mechanical, breathing with that horrible wheeze. But when she blinked, only shadows remained. "Much anger in you. Like your father." "I'm nothing like him," Leia spat. "No?" The old master settled beside her, surprisingly spry for someone supposedly on death's door. "Lost everything you have. Your world, your family, your love, frozen in carbonite. Tell me, young Skywalker, what would you not do to prevent such loss again?" The question burrowed into her mind like a parasite. Weeks later, aboard Home One, the rebellion's fleet prepared for what many believed would be their final gambit. The second Death Star hung incomplete above the forest moon of Endor, a trap so obvious it might as well have been lit with neon. But what choice did they have? "It's a trap!" Admiral Akbar stated the obvious during the briefing, his bulbous eyes scanning the assembled commanders. "Of course it's a trap," Leia interrupted, surprising herself with the sharpness of her tone. "The Emperor wants us to attack. He's counting on our predictability." Mon Mothma's serene expression flickered. "What would you suggest, Princess?" "That we stop playing by their rules. We've been reactive for too long, defensive. Maybe it's time we took what we want instead of always protecting what we have left." That sounds dangerously close to Imperial thinking. Leia met her gaze without flinching. Maybe that's why they keep winning. The room fell silent. Even Han, leaning against the back wall with his practiced casualness, straightened up. He'd been watching her since she returned from Dagobah, noticing the shadows under her eyes, the way she'd started meditating alone in empty cargo bays. "Hey, Princess," he called out as the meeting dispersed. "You okay? You've been different lately." She wanted to tell him, wanted to collapse into his arms and confess the poison in her bloodline. Instead, she kissed him, fierce and desperate. "Just promise me something," she whispered against his lips. "Whatever happens at Endor, remember that I love you." "I know," he said, but his eyes were worried. The mission to Endor's surface proceeded as planned. Almost. At the last moment, Leia insisted on accompanying Luke to face Vader. "He's my father too," she argued. "I have as much right to confront him as you do." Luke couldn't argue with that logic, though something in the Force screamed warnings he couldn't quite interpret. The throne room aboard the Death Star was exactly as oppressive as Leia had imagined. The Emperor sat like a spider at the center of his web, yellow eyes gleaming with malevolent amusement. Vader stood at his side, that mechanical breathing the only sound as the turbolift doors sealed behind them. "Young Skywalker," Palpatine crooned, but his gaze fixed on Leia. "And Princess Leia. How delightful. The children of Anakin Skywalker, together at last." "We've come to accept your surrender," Leia said, and even Luke looked at her in surprise. Palpatine's cackle echoed off the walls. "Such fire. Yes, I can feel your anger, your hatred. You wear diplomacy like armor, but beneath..." He leaned forward. "Beneath beats the heart of a true Sith." "I'm nothing like you." "No? Tell me, Princess, when Alderaan burned, what did you feel? When your adoptive parents turned to atoms, when billions of voices cried out and were silenced, what did you truly feel?" The memory crashed over her like a physical blow. She'd been forced to watch, helpless as everything she'd ever known disappeared in an instant. And in that moment, beneath the horror and grief, there had been something else. Something she'd buried so deep she'd almost forgotten it existed. Rage. Pure crystalline rage that had wanted nothing more than to tear Tarkin apart with her bare hands, to make the Empire burn as Alderaan had burned. "Yes," Palpatine hissed. "You understand power in a way your brother never will. He seeks to redeem. You seek to rule."
"Master,"
Vader spoke for the first time.
"let me test them."
What followed was not the duel anyone expected. When Vader's blade swept toward Luke, Leia moved without thinking. The Force flowed through her like electricity, raw and untrained but immensely powerful. She caught Vader's saber on a piece of debris she'd yanked from the wall, the metal glowing red-hot from the contact.
"Impressive,"
Vader noted, almost proudly. But Leia was beyond words. The power singing in her veins was intoxicating. Every loss, every failure, every moment of helplessness, they all crystallized into a single burning purpose. Never again. Never would she stand by and watch what she loved be destroyed. When Vader threatened Luke, when her brother lay defeated and broken, something inside Leia snapped. The Force exploded out of her in a wave of pure fury. Vader's mechanical breathing hitched as invisible hands closed around his throat. His own signature move turned against him. "Leia, no!" Luke gasped, but she couldn't hear him over the roar in her ears. "Yes!" Palpatine cackled. "Strike him down. Take your father's place at my side." The temptation was overwhelming. With this power, she could end the war, bring order to the galaxy, ensure that no world would ever suffer Alderaan's fate again. All she had to do was squeeze. "Leia!" Vader's voice, stripped of its mechanical edge by the damage to his respirator, sounded almost human. "My daughter, I am proud." Those 3 words shattered her concentration. The Force grip loosened, and Vader collapsed to his knees. But Palpatine was already moving, lightning crackling from his fingertips, not toward Leia, but toward Luke. "Choose," the Emperor commanded. "Your brother's life, or your apprenticeship. You cannot have both." Time slowed. Leia saw the paths branching before her, each leading to a different future. In one, she stood aside and let Luke die, becoming the weapon the galaxy needed. In the other, "There is another way," she said, and even Palpatine paused at the certainty in her voice. "You offer me power to bring order, but power shared is not power diminished." "You would bargain with me?" The Emperor seemed genuinely amused. "I would learn from you," Leia corrected, "and then I would surpass you. Isn't that the way of the Sith?" Luke struggled to speak through his pain. "Leia, don't!" "Be quiet, brother," she said gently. "I'm saving your life." The negotiation that followed would have made the Galactic Senate proud. Leia laid out terms with the same cold precision she'd used in countless diplomatic summits. She would apprentice to Palpatine, but Luke would go free. The rebellion would be granted amnesty in exchange for submission to a reformed empire, one where she would serve as the Emperor's voice, gradually amusing more control.
You think to deceive me,
Palpatine mused.
You plan to betray me the moment you have learned enough.
Of course, Leia admitted, just as you plan to replace me with someone more malleable once I've served my purpose. But in the meantime, we both get what we want. You get an apprentice with the bloodline of the Chosen One. I get the power to reshape the galaxy.
And if I refuse?
Leia smiled, and it was Vader's smile beneath her mother's face. Then we all die here today. The rebellion fleet is already attacking. Without your battle meditation to coordinate the Imperial forces, they might actually succeed. You could kill us all, but you'd die knowing your empire died with you. Palpatine studied her for a long moment. Then, he began to laugh. Genuine, delighted laughter.
Oh, you are magnificent. Very well, Princess. Let us see what you can become.
What happened next would become a legend, though few knew the truth. Official records stated that Vader turned on the Emperor, casting him down in a reactor shaft in a final act of redemption. They said Princess Leia held her dying father as he became Anakin Skywalker once more, that she and Luke escaped together as the Death Star exploded. The truth was more complex. Vader did turn on Palpatine, but not to save Luke, to save Leia from a bargain he knew would destroy her. The Emperor's lightning tore through his life support systems as they fought, master and apprentice locked in their final dance. But Palpatine had contingencies upon contingencies. Even as his body fell into the reactor, his essence fled, seeking the clone bodies he'd prepared on Exegol.
Go!
Vader wheezed, his helmet removed to reveal Anakin's scarred face. Both of you, leave me. Father, Luke began, but Anakin's eyes were fixed on Leia. I failed your mother, he gasped. Failed you both. But you're stronger than I ever was. Strong enough to resist what I couldn't. His hand, flesh, not metal, touched her cheek. Don't let the darkness consume you, Leia. Don't become me. She held him as he died, feeling the light return to him in those final moments. But even as tears ran down her face, she felt the dark side coiling around her heart like a serpent. The power she touched couldn't be forgotten, wouldn't be ignored. They escaped in separate shuttles as the Death Star came apart around them. The rebellion celebrated, the Empire fractured, and in the chaos of victory, no one noticed the shadows growing behind Princess Leia's eyes. Months passed. The New Republic rose from the Empire's ashes, with Mon Mothma as its first chancellor and Leia as her right hand. To the galaxy, they were partners in building a better future. In truth, Leia had already begun her real work. Late at night, in secured chambers, she studied the text she'd salvaged from Vader's castle on Mustafar. The Sith were gone. Palpatine believed dead, but their knowledge remained. And knowledge, Leia had learned, was just another form of power. You're playing with fire, Luke warned during one of his visits. He'd begun rebuilding the Jedi Order, gathering Force-sensitive children from across the galaxy. I'm learning to control it, Leia countered, not looking up from the ancient holocron floating before her. The Jedi fear the dark side. The Sith embrace it. But what if both are wrong? What if the answer is balance? That's what Anakin wanted to bring. Luke reminded her. Look at how that ended. Leia's smile was sharp. He failed because he let emotion rule him. I won't make that mistake. But she already had. When Han came to her quarters that night, she was deep in meditation, floating 3 feet off the ground with datapads orbiting around her like planets. His shocked intake of breath broke her concentration. What the hell, Leia? She landed gracefully, but the damage was done. Han, I can explain. Explain what? That you're going all mystical on me? That you're starting to act like... He couldn't finish the sentence, but they both knew what he meant. Like Vader. I'm nothing like him. The words came out with more force than intended, and Han actually stepped back. Aren't you? His voice was quiet now, sad. When's the last time you smiled, Leia? Really smiled, not that political mask you wear. When's the last time we just talked? She wanted to reach for him, but the holocron hummed behind her, promising answers to questions she hadn't even asked yet. The galaxy needs Princess Leia, Han interrupted. Not whatever you're becoming. He left that night, said he needed time to think, maybe do some solo runs to clear his head. Leia let him go, telling herself it was for the best. Attachments, after all, led to fear of loss. And fear of loss? Well, she knew where that led. The transformation from Princess Leia to Darth Veritas didn't happen overnight. It was 1,000 small compromises, each justified by necessity. A political rival silenced through forced persuasion here, a trade negotiant tilted through subtle mind tricks there, always for the greater good, always to bring order. The New Republic Senate never saw it coming. By the time they realized their champion of democracy had been systematically undermining their institutions, it was too late. The Shadow Council she'd built in secret already controlled key military assets. Former imperialists offered amnesty in exchange for loyalty, flocked to her banner. You've betrayed everything we fought for, Mon Mothma accused her during their final confrontation. I've saved it, Leia corrected, her voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. You would have let the Republic decay into the same weakness that allowed Palpatine to rise. I won't make that mistake. When Luke came to stop her, lightsaber in hand and tears in his eyes, she was ready. Their duel shook the foundations of the Senate building, light against dark, brother against sister. But Luke fought with compassion, while Leia fought to win. I don't want to hurt you, he pleaded as their sabers locked. Then kneel, she replied, and the Force command behind the words nearly broke him. She needed him alive, but defeated, a message to any who would oppose her. Darth Veritas had risen, and the galaxy would know order whether it wanted it or not. But in the quiet moments, when the mask slipped and she was alone with her thoughts, Leia remembered her father's final words. The darkness was consuming her, just as he'd warned. And the worst part? She didn't want it to stop. The galaxy needed strength. It needed protection. It needed someone willing to do what must be done, no matter the cost. And if that meant becoming the very thing she'd once fought against, so be it. Years passed, the Shadow Empire rose, and somewhere in the unknown regions, a boy named Ben Solo grew up torn between the light of his uncle's teachings and the seductive whisper of his mother's power. The sins of the father, it seemed, had become the sins of the mother. And the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see which way the balance would finally tip. If you enjoyed this journey through what might have been, remember to subscribe to the channel for more alternative takes on the stories we love. Because in infinite possibilities lie infinite adventures. May the Force be with you, always.